Hello, everyone. Welcome to my podcast, So Deep, the podcast where we talk about the important topics of great relevance and deep impact. Our theory, our gyan is no more talked about here. We only talk about the experiential learning. All right. So, in the last series of podcast, we talked about the power of mentoring, where we talked about the importance of mentoring and how it transforms life. And in the real case example, I took my own example where I called my mentor, Mr. Pradeep Kumar from Canada, and he graciously came over and we talked about how he transformed my life, identified my potentials, made me realize how I should identify opportunities, and ultimately elevate my growth, transforming my growth. So, if you have not watched that series, please go ahead and watch that. Coming back to this new series, I'm starting the new series, and this is going to be a 3-episode series where we will talk about the topic is identify your potential, understand your opportunities, and elevate yourself. And this all is under the umbrella of the power of mentoring. One more thing, in this 3 series, in the first series, we will talk about a real case example of one of our guests here. And he's a very good personality. I have worked with him. And we'll take his real case example, how mentoring impacted his life, how he got mentored, or how he also is now. I know he's a fantastic mentor. So how he's mentoring and how he's transforming lives. So that's one thing that we'll be talking about. So let me introduce my guest of the series, Amulya Sah. Welcome, Amulya.
Thank you, Sudeep. So midweek, Wednesday, the idea of coming, talking to you, seeing you, meeting you, and then of course, talking about mentorship, which is something very, very close to my heart.
Absolutely.
Is what made me leave my office much earlier than the time and just rush in and come and speak to you.
Thank you so much.
So when you talked to me and told me that, okay, let's do a series and a podcast on mentorship. So only thing which flashed in my mind was this analogy of a small seed and mentor being the water. So seeds, I feel, are personalities like us, and there's so many people around where they have the potential. But the potential does not flower well till the time you water it properly. Not less, not more. So then you see, after some times, you'll see the seeds becoming a tree, and tree then flowers, and then of course the fruits. And that is how I look at mentoring.
Fantastic, Amulya. That couldn't have been a better example. And I know we together, our heart and soul had been in mentoring. So this episode, more than episode, is going to be fun talking about it. And I'm sure there will be some takeaways for our viewers out of it.
Absolutely.
All right. So our viewers, Amulya is working as Senior Vice President and Chief Human Resource Officer in a company called Invest India. Invest India is the most awarded investment promotion agency in the world. Invest India is the advisor, guide, facilitator to every investor looking to make a home in India. Amulya has earlier worked in companies like HCL, Birlasoft, Samsung, and Birlasoft is the company where we work together. So we had been ex-colleagues also. He's a star performer. He is a true HR professional involving every aspect of every individual's growth journey and involved in developing leaders, people, managers in every aspect. So from HR perspective, he brings a lot, immense knowledge. Also, besides being a HR professional, he is a charismatic leader. He's a performer. I mean, wherever he goes, he creates his aura. I mean, जिसे कहते हैं ना माहौल बना देता. So that's who Amulya is. Amulya, let's start the show.
Absolutely.
Okay. So in today's show, Amulya, I want to start mentoring something. We all have been hearing about Ramayana. You know, my mom has been, reciting that in my childhood, and I've always been intently hearing that. And one of the story which struck me more, a lot, was the story of Jamwant and Hanuman. And I always had been fascinated as to how important Jamwant was for Hanuman. Hanuman had potential in him, and he was not aware of it. He didn't realize what kind of potential he has. And Jamwant becomes his mentor, and unlocks his potential of flying. And just imagine what was the impact of that unlocking of potential in the epic. I mean, to name the two most important things, one is Hanuman flew to Lanka to find Sita, and he searched and found Sita. And of course, Ramji then went to with his
Lanka.
whole Sena. We went and attacked and brought back Sita. So that's a profound impact of learning his potential. Second is when the war was going on and Lakshman was hurt, and he was unconscious, and it was told that if Sanjeevani Booty was not brought from Himalaya, then his life may not be there. And just imagine this potential coming again. This power was utilized. Hanumanji flew to Himalaya and not recognizing this is he brought the whole Parvat, and then of course Lakshmanji was revived. And I was wondering, what if Jamwant was not there? What if Hanuman didn't knew the power of his potential of flying? I mean, the course of the whole epic would be entirely different.
Very, very different. Yeah.
So, three things I can take from this. There was a potential untapped. There was a mentor who made this potential realized. Then there are opportunities in his life, Hanuman's life, to utilize this potential power to make a greater impact on a larger episode, but larger life for that matter. So that is my premise, is that importance of mentor is humongous.
It's very immense. But on the lighter side, if Ramayana would have not happened, or Hanuman would have not learned his potential, we would have never had Dashera and Diwali. Okay, so that's the lighter side of it. But believe you me, we are very, very proud, and I think that we are born in India. And we have so many Vedas, etc., from where we can learn. But many of us who went to the corporate and got corrupted because of all the nuisance and nonsense that keeps happening in the organization, that you leave what you could learn from Gita or Ramayana or Upanishads and the Vedas, right? And as you rightly said, the best part about mentors are they will not do anything or put external forces, but they'll make you realize who you are.
Absolutely.
What is within. Absolutely. And how do you get those things out so that you can be at the best.
Absolutely.
And the world is full of these examples, starting from Hanuman.
Absolutely. Yeah. Fantastic. I mean, you could not have added a better connotation on that, Amulya. So, Amulya, let me start from your journey.
Yeah.
How, now that we know this word of mentoring, right? How was this, how did it impacted you? I mean, you as a mentee, what you got mentored by somebody? How did you learn somebody through somebody? Or, and then I know for sure that you mentored a lot of people.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I want to understand, what is your story of getting mentored and mentoring and the impact, profound impact?
Sure. So I'll have to go back at least around 38 years back. Okay. So I'm 25 years old with 26 years of experience, but that's why I have to go 35 years back, way back in school. And I was a very good sports person. And my first love was soccer. So when I was in 5th, there was a guy called Raymond, and he was a senior teacher in the school, and he saw me playing. And I never used to play with my school people or my classmates. I always preferred playing with the senior people. So one day he said, why don't you come and join a club which was outside the school? So Saturdays, Sundays, you come and give your trials. And I was in 5th, very, very young. And then I went and he said, you've got a lot of skills. I will train you. And every Saturday, Sunday, you'll have to come in the morning. So that was a sacrifice that I had to go at 4:45 a.m. on Saturdays, Sundays and practice for 3 hours, out of which 2 hours he used to give me tips on drills and on dribbling and all those things, because I used to play forward. And within, I think, 6 months or 1 year, I was in the school team.
Wow.
In standard 6th, I was the youngest in the school team. And the first tournament I remember, I was in the playing 15. I did not play a single match in that tournament, but St. Michael's, Patna, where I come from, they won and I got a medal. That medal is still there.
Wow.
So that is my earliest, what do you say,
Realization
of the mentorship. So when you talked about it, I had to really go back and dig out all this.
And by the way, it was of something which you loved.
Absolutely, that was my passion, and there are a lot of things that you learn from sports. And if you look at prodigies like maybe Tendulkar or anybody else, they always had a guru, they always had a mentor. So of course, my father was very clear that you're not going to play, please go and study. And that's how I went to college and then come back. So that's my earliest. But you look at professional life. So I think when I was in HCL, which was my first job, within 2.5 years, I was the youngest to be posted abroad. So I get a posting. Why my manager calls me and says, there's a requirement for an HR person in Malaysia to look after Asia Pacific. And I have told Amulya's name. And I was just 2.5 years experience in HCL. And that when I went there, of course, I was very young as an assistant manager.
Why did he name you? With only 2.5 years experience, did you?
So I asked him. So he said, there are 3 P's which you have to remember in life. So I said, what are those 3 P's? Because you have looked at the other 5 P's of marketing. And so he said, these 3 P's are, the first one is that your performance is really good. And we see that you've got a lot of potential. And the third thing, which is very important, nobody looks at it, but it's very important for you to grow, is perception. So I said, what do you mean by perception? So he says, perception of people, of leaders, that this guy can do what we want. Which means if you are first among equals, perceptions matters a lot. So if a CEO is deciding, or a CEO is deciding, or a CFO is deciding for any role that has to be given for a first among equals, and the perception is, oh, Amulya can do this job, then you will get those opportunities. Right. So when I went to Malaysia, so I was young, so every time I used to go to my...
So he basically made you realize that your potential.
Yes.
In terms of those
Absolutely.
3 P's.
3 P's. And I think that has stuck to me, that while you have to perform, if you really want to grow fast, but then you should have potential to take up responsibilities. And the third thing is, how is the organization or the leaders looking at you, whether it is inside or outside? If that perception is not built, then you will have tough time moving ahead in your ladder. So when I landed there were much senior people in admin and finance, and my country head says that you have to manage them. So that was the toughest. So I started doing it. And for every small thing, I used to go to that country manager. So one day he told me, so our office was in Petronas Tower, level 51, and he used to smoke that time. And he had this beautiful habit of keeping small paper in which he used to write that this I have to discuss with Amulya or this is it. So he said, come. So we used to take some time to go down and then 2 cigarettes and then come up. And then that's 10 minutes or 15 minutes, he used to tell us. So one day he says, I have seen you coming to me every now and then. So let me tell you one thing. You have been chosen only because of your potential and performance in the past and that perception that you can do well. So from now on, you are my HR manager. Whatever you do, just come and convince me that this is right and just go on your own. I think that was the biggest lesson that I learned as a manager from a mentor. And that guy was amazing on time management, amazing on looking at his goals, and amazing on the growth. So I could just see him. He was a pure sales guy. And I learned very, very immense lessons for myself in HR from him. So I think he had that very initial stage of influence on my career. So that was my mentorship that I can talk about. So as I grew, in between I learned and I read a book. I don't know if you have read. That's called Die Empty.
Yes.
Okay. So Todd has been fantastic in that book. And the opening statement says, what do you think is the richest place on earth? And if you ask anybody, they are going to tell you and give you all kinds of examples, maybe a diamond thing in Ghana or the petroleum wells in Saudi Arabia. And finally, he says, the graveyard. The graveyard is where people actually take everything with them. So he says, die empty. Give it back to the society. Why you are taking this?
How true is that? How profound?
Very, very profound. And that's one of my best books that I can talk about, apart from Livingston Seagull and, of course, Alchemist, the all-time favorite. But Die Empty was something that talked to me and spoke to me and said, you also have to die empty and give it. And that's how I came into giving back to the colleges or mentoring and all. Two cases in particular. One guy was in HR, one guy was a technical guy. So this HR guy was doing fantastic, but he never had a very good equation with his manager and the leadership. And he used to get very bad ratings. And he was not reporting to me. But I knew him, so he used to come and ask, sir, what can I do? This, you see, I'm doing this. Last year I did this, but still I'm getting this. So one day I told him, boss, if your perception is not built here,
You gave back.
so I gave it back. No need to stick here. You have to let go. Just let go. And this was in a big company. So he took some time for what I was actually telling him as an experience and a mentor, that you have to look for greener pastures. So that push that I gave him, he decided. Then he went to one company. From assistant manager, he became manager and senior manager there. From senior manager, he left to another company. Now he's a general manager and his salary would be at least 4x from where I had told him. So and he comes to me and meets me. And the second was a typical case of a guy. Yeah.
So did you handhold him throughout,
Absolutely.
on various point of time?
Absolutely. So when he started doing, I said, you make your CV, I will look at it. If you're going for an interview, I'll help you prepare. So if they are going to ask you these 4 questions, why you're leaving, what happened and this is how you're going to answer. And today also, if he wants to change, he comes back to me saying that, sir, I am going to give this interview. So if I know somebody there, I of course give my reference. But otherwise, I'll help him to prepare, okay, what were some of the achievements and what do you think, what were some of your wow moments in those companies and all, and I'll do that, right? So students also I keep doing for soil or Amity people that they come. But these 2 particular cases, the second one is absolutely very, very different. An engineer from a very good NIT, stuck in a coding. So one day when he came, and he used to come because he used to play guitar and when I used to sing. So I saw there's a big tattoo on his right hand where there's a mind and there's a DNA sequence.
Oh.
So I said, what is this? So he said, sir, I want to do something in IT which relates mind and DNA.
Wow.
Do something in coding. And I said, then what are you doing here? Your rating is so bad. So why don't you go for higher studies? And then after slowly talking to him, I said, what do you want? I really coaxed him and tried to find out what exactly he wants to do. That path, narrowed down and zeroed down. And then I said, okay, now you tell me what you want to do. So he said, higher studies and PhD.
Wow.
So I said, fine, you must take the test. Then he took the test, went to Europe, did his PhD. Then he got Madam Curie scholarship.
Wow.
So he did that. Then he went to Harvard.
Oh my God.
For his higher studies. So when I was in 2019, when I was in New York, he came from Harvard to meet me. And we spent a full day going around New York.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was, and
So
then
from coding to
PhD.
the right path of, and PhD in, do you know in what?
some neuroscience
Okay,
and
in the
plus
same
IT.
area that
Yeah.
of his interest.
Yeah. And now he is in Europe, married to a doctor. When he came to India for his visa in Delhi, he came to my place. And today also, when it's either his birthday or my birthday, we exchange mails. And
See,
I think
what you
that's
just
been
talk about,
crazy.
if you see, if I take out a couple of takeaways, mentoring is a long-term thing.
Absolutely.
It's not a one odd suggestion and then out. No, mentoring is generally a long-term thing. That's the difference between a teacher or guide or the coach and the mentor. Besides this, you come and handhold. Generally, both of you have developed the trust.
Yes.
So
So I like to interject and say that if you don't build that liking,
Absolutely.
if you don't build that trust, if you don't have happiness when you're together, because both mentee and mentor, they learn.
Absolutely.
So it's not like friendship, oh, I want to be a friend, jo small mein bacche mein karte the.
Absolutely. So for our viewers, please understand this is very, very, very important relationship, that building of the trust.
And 3 things I might add to this is mentorship. There are a lot of people who make mistake, but it's about going and asking a mentor which you feel can maybe develop that relationship and finally give it back to you. So ask is the first thing. You can't sit like a Newton under an apple tree and you feel, oh, there'll be a mentor who will fall on your head. No, it's not.
No.
So first thing is ask. Once if you ask, then you activate. What do you mean by activate? You call, you meet, have lunch, discover what is the commonality, what is that area that you can help him or the mentor can help him. So mentor, of course, you choose. Mostly they are either much more experience and more gray cells, gray hairs and all those things. But the third thing is that if you get into that relationship, you have to maintain that relationship.
Yeah.
So that
Absolutely.
maintenance is something,
Continuity,
because
long
many
term.
people who ask for mentors, they'll do a quick one, 6
And then
months,
they
1
are
year,
off.
and then they leave. So
That's
if you
not
can't carry that relationship long, you are not going to be benefited in your careers.
Basically, you don't exploit your whole potential.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Not 1Z case and all that.
No.
Perfect. Perfect. I mean, Amulya, thank you for sharing all that. These are profound stories. In fact, if you see now, if I conclude this, we talked about the potential, right? And then in this, the second guy's case, he had potential, he had interest in something else, but he was doing
Did not
coding, something
realize.
else.
Yeah.
He didn't realize. He didn't realize the potential. He was dissatisfied. He was not doing good for himself. He was not doing good for organization.
And another example which I think the whole world realizes, at least in India, Dhoni used to play soccer and he was a goalkeeper. It's only the mentor or the coach, he said, boss, come and become a wicket keeper. The rest is history.
Absolutely. So understanding the potential, channelizing to the right, identifying right potential, channelizing to right opportunities.
Absolutely.
These two together, if they come, the outcome is going to be fantastic and good for a person, good for society, good for everybody. We talked about today primarily on the potential, opportunities, and elevate by connecting the two. And as Amulya said, the need of a mentor is right there. I mean, we can still learn a lot of things, we can stumble upon, we can fail, we may sort of stumble upon, but that's all a chance. But if you want to have a systematic understanding of your potential, identify opportunities and grow in life, I think the need of the mentor is absolutely important. With that note, we are closing this episode here and we'll come back to you with the next episode pretty soon. Thank you.